But we're joined tonight by, as well as our own members, we've got quite a number of visiting masters and representing other companies who are interested to hear more about the Livery Food Initiative, and several representatives from the Livery Charity Chairs Group. The most important of whom I'm going to hand over to next, which is our almoner, Hilary, who, as many of you know, founded the Livery Charity Chairs Group, and she will start us off this evening with the introduction. But could I also ask if you could all check you're on mute during the presentation so that we don't get any background noise, and also to let you know that the slides you're going to see up on the screen will be available to everybody afterwards, and also I believe the recording will be available to see on the City Harvest website as well. So we've got a lot to cover this evening, so I'll hand over to you, Hilary, to kick us off. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Richard. And Claire, would you mind sharing the slides? So if we can just move on one. So, introduction. So this is me. And this evening, we're going to tell you several stories that all then come together at the end into the Livery Food Initiative. And this is the first story. So the first story is that after I was master, I became the almoner and chair of the Chartered Accountants Livery Charity. And I thought, gosh, this is a new role. How do I make sure I do it properly? I wonder if I could get a few friends I could talk to about it. So we put out a request saying, would anybody like to join a Livery Charity Chairs Group? And this was in 2021. We now have 92 members from 79 livery companies and guilds. So this is quite a significant group that we now have. And it's very much doing what is said on the next slide, Claire. And so the reason why we're here as a group is to help make livery charities better at attracting funds, better at running ourselves, and so able to help more people in more ways through the grants that we make. And we've got a fantastic team to talk to you this evening, just going on to the next slide. So we have, first of all, we've got Laura's going to talk to us about how City Harvest began. I'm afraid that Richard Winstanley can't be with us this evening, so I'm going to pretend to be the clerk to the Drapers Company, which will be quite an interesting challenge, and talk to you a little bit about that area. Then Denise Fellows, who's a management consultant, and one of the main reasons why this all started, is going to tell us how the food initiative developed. And then we're going on to Sarah, who's the Chief Exec of City Harvest, who's going to talk to us about City Harvest vans and the next steps. And then at the end, we're going to have a Q&A session where you can raise anything that you want to. So that's who we are. And all the people that are here tonight and on this slide are actually members of the Livery Charity Chairs Group, Food Task Group. So we're the group that was set up in order to try and make this happen. So we're all here tonight. So whatever you want to know about, we should be able to help you with. So with that, can I hand over, please, to Laura?
Thank you, Hilary. I should start by saying it's been a whirlwind since I first met Hilary and Denise not that long ago, to this point where so much impact has already been made. So thank you, Livery Chairs Group, for reaching out to begin this project. Next slide. So City Harvest began in 2015, and it was a very small project. The idea was that in London, one of the wealthiest cities in the world, there's still a staggering amount of hunger and staggering amount of food waste. Each month in London, there's more than enough edible food to nourish all the people who are missing meals. We had Bain & Company do some research for us, and we realized that each month, 10.2 million meals are needed and 13.3 million meals are wasted. So City Harvest was really born to connect the two. Next slide. Thank you. So City Harvest was a simple idea, but we actually have a very complex operation. Each day we get unexpected amounts of surplus food, because the nature of the beast of food surplus is businesses, restaurants, supermarkets, manufacturers, farms, they have surplus food that's nourishing and safe to eat, but just is unused for any number of reasons. So City Harvest is there to be nimble, accept as much surplus as possible and get it out quickly, reliably, and safely to people in need. Next slide. So so far we have rescued around 18,000 tons of food since City Harvest was launched. And we really have an emphasis on healthy food, not just any food, but when we deliver to charities around London, we want to improve the health and well-being of the people that visit these charities as well. So more than a third of what we deliver are fresh fruits and vegetables. We deliver meat, fish, poultry, and we also have an emphasis on delivering to each charity the type of food that they need, the people that they serve want. And London is a very diverse city. We deliver culturally appropriate food when we can. Next slide. So we rescue food, we rescue people and planet. So far, we've delivered 42 million meals to people in need. And this food, which we deliver free to charities, has a retail value, everything we've delivered to date, of around 78 million pounds. That goes to charities. And our impact is really that the charities, which would have spent money for food, can redirect it to other vital services. So if it's a drop-in center for people who have mental illness, they could bring in another counselor. An after-school program for children can add more activities. So the ripple effect in the community, the multiplier effect of what we do, is quite large. And we serve almost every type of need group. You could see them set out here. But we, of the 375 charities we serve, we touch most people in need. Next slide. We rescue the planet as well. So when food does not go, food that's unused, if it went to landfill, it would decompose and release toxic greenhouse gases. So to date, we've prevented almost 68,000 tons of toxic greenhouse gases. And as most of you know, food waste is one of the leading contributors to climate change. So we help battle this each and every day. We make an impact. Next slide. So we've grown extremely quickly. During COVID, we quadrupled in size. We went from a very small warehouse to a large 13,000 square foot one. And now our average delivery quantities are around 1.2 million meals each month. Hunger was soaring when we began City Harvest in 2015. COVID, it spiked again. And the current cost of living crisis, which we've all come together to deal with and contend with by adding new vans to our fleet, is a very serious issue right now. So it's a serious humanitarian crisis in our own backyard. Next slide. And I will turn it over to Hillary, but I can say that working with the livery companies over the last 8 years has been a privilege and made a tremendous impact. So thank you, everyone on this call.
And Laura has done an absolutely phenomenal job in setting up City Harvest in the first place. We're all underplaying our hands tonight, but if you look behind anything that people are saying about City Harvest, you'll find it's an amazing organisation. So it's about 2 years ago that Richard Winstanley was persuaded to actually talk to the Chartered Accountants Livery Company about the Livery Kitchen Initiative. So it's rather lovely that we're here tonight hearing about the Livery Kitchen Initiative again in the context of the Livery Food Initiative. So if we can just move on one, thanks, Claire. So the kitchen initiative started in 2020, almost as soon as the lockdown started. And it was there, it did two things. It helped NHS staff who were working 12-hour shifts in full PPE kit, not able to get any food at all. And it also helped communities in East London in food poverty. And that's in particular where City Harvest were involved. And many of you I know will have been involved in supporting the initiative. It involved 4 livery companies, the grocers, the drapers, the fishmongers and the merchant tailors, all used their kitchens to produce the meals, and party ingredients, the caterer, were also involved. And those meals were then delivered as indicated on the slide. Lots of us also gave money. So money was raised, as mentioned on the slide. The fruiterers, and I need to say that Sarah is also a fruiterer, as well as the chief executive of City Harvest. The fruiterers matched every meal with some fruit. The hackney carriage drivers provided a taxi service to move the chefs so they could make the meals. And so you'll see it was a really imaginative, valuable service during the lockdown. And City Harvest were a natural part of that. And they were able to take some of the meals that the Livery Kitchen Initiative had produced and deliver them to those communities in East London in food poverty. And I couldn't describe the City Harvest Initiative any better than the words on Richard's slide, which is efficient, reliable, proven logistical program of surplus food distribution. So when we came to think about whether we might work with City Harvest, we had a lot of our due diligence already done for us. So then if we go to the next slide, what happened towards the end of the kitchen initiative was that there was some money remaining, and Richard wrote round to all the livery charities and said, would you mind if we used some of the money at the end to fund a position within City Harvest who could find out what the need was around East London, so that we can then provide support in a very well organised, need-based way. And so Marco was appointed to that role. And Sarah will probably tell you more about Marco later on, but what I know about Marco is that there's a fantastic quote from him at the top of the second page of our document about the Livery Food Initiative, where he's explaining the need. He's very much there scoping the initiative all the time, and 3 areas that he's involved with. He's involved in strategic direction, so the top level of how do you work out what to do next? How do you rationalize who to help next when there are so many people in need? Very much then around the external relationships within City Harvest or outside City Harvest, building reputation and influence, and then internally being able to feed back from the experiences, delivering the food back to colleagues. And as Richard says at the bottom of the slide, a remarkable man doing remarkable things. So that's Marco, who's still in post, still doing an absolutely fantastic job. And I'm sure we'll be hearing from him in the months to come as we move forward with this initiative. And then we just have one more slide about the Livery Kitchen Initiative. So some of you might know that I have a doctorate in learning. So when you discover that you're talking to somebody who has got a whole list of lessons learned from an initiative, you realize that for me, that is absolutely manna from heaven. And so this was the list of the lessons that Richard learnt during the Livery Kitchen Initiative, which Denise will talk a little bit more about in a minute. But this is an amazing list. I just want to draw your attention to one of them, which is the third one down, where he says crawl, walk, run. So when we were starting off with what we're doing now, we were very much aware that we didn't want to start to run until we could crawl and then walk. I've had people saying to me, well, which stage are we at now, Hilary? And I'm ducking that question because I'm not quite sure what the answer is, but certainly we've set off on a route that's sustainable and that's set us off in absolutely the right way. And these lessons learned have been phenomenal. Next slide, Claire. And I'll hand over to Denise.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Hilary. And so that's given you a little bit of the background to City Harvest and the Livery Kitchen Initiative. And the Livery Food Initiative, as Hilary has sort of intimated, came out of the Charity Chairs Group hot topic in September 2022. So this has gone really very quickly. And I was talking about grant funding and how to make more impactful grant funding, if impactful is such a word. And one of the things that was recommended in a Forbes report, in fact, was that grant making organisations should collaborate together to create a bigger impact in the funding that they're making. And I cited in the livery environment, the Livery Kitchens Initiative, as being something which had been a great example of us collaborating together, and said, well, maybe, you know, it's time to do something similar, but a bit different, and try to address the food poverty issue within London. And it was really helpful having Hilary, who we've been saying is a completer finisher, who kind of stuck a hand up and said, well, that's a good idea. How do we make this work? And we put a message out onto the WhatsApp group for the Livery Charity Chairs group and said, would anybody be interested in following this up? And we got a little group together who felt that, yes, actually, it would be a worthwhile thing to do. And then we formed, sorry, I should have said next slide. We formed a tax group, which included Richard, Hilary, myself, David Laxton from the Bowyers. Laura came on board very quickly, and Sarah and Fiona joined later on. But we had this task group very, very quickly. And Richard, I think, was the sort of real find in this. And he said, yes, I need to be involved. I want something which is going to take the Livery Kitchens Initiative forward. And we met with him at Draper's. He presented us with this, here's the list of everything I learned, which you've just seen from the Livery Kitchens Initiative. We went, this is fantastic. And we think we've been thinking about this in far too complicated a fashion, and we need to keep it simple. So from that meeting in September, we actually launched this initiative in December of the year, at the beginning of December. Next slide. And we kept it simple to start with. So we had lots of brilliant ideas how we might be able to contribute to City Harvest, but we felt, keep it simple. Let's start crawling first of all, and let's just think about how we might be able to just keep the vans rolling, which is a strapline of City Harvest. So what would we need to do to keep the vans rolling? And the simplest way of doing it was just to say, we're going to get funds and ask people to pay the money directly to City Harvest, with a little tagline of, this is part of the LCCG LFI initiative, so we can see everything that's being raised by the livery companies, and we're just going to focus on, let's raise enough money in the first instance for a van, which costs 190,000 for 3 years, to run for 3 years, and would provide food, rescue food, which provide meals for 2.4 million meals. And this great social return on investment, that every pound that's donated is actually generating £12.70 of social value. So keeping it simple in the first instance, we started pulling together what the campaign would look like. And if I could have the next slide. And we were really pleased because we almost immediately got support from the Lord Mayor, from the sheriffs, from Michael Manelli, who were saying, we think this is a great idea. What can we do to help? And we will be talking about how we're going to launch the van, the first van, I hope, in the near future. And we wanted to involve as many livery companies and their charitable funds as possible. And so we've been looking at how do we enable giving in as many ways as possible. So it is possible for charities to give a charitable fund directly from their charity. It's possible, we have done within the management consultants, we've done matched funding. So we've raised nearly £3,000 from our members, and our charitable fund is going to be matching that with another £3,000, so £6,000 in total, which will be going towards City Harvest. And we have now just launched a page, so if charitable funds are saying, well, we're not quite sure it's in our objects, we're not quite sure whether we as a charitable fund can give money, we can still say, but your members can give money towards this. I must say at the start of this, I was incredibly naive about the scale of the problem. And I think, you know, Laura has talked about the vast numbers that are involved in food poverty. And so even 190,000 is a real kind of small amount of money in trying to face the crisis which is happening at the moment. But I'm absolutely thrilled to say, if we can have a drum roll and the next slide, then so far we've raised £138,000 from 22 livery companies, which I think is 70% of a van and a wing mirror. So we're doing jolly well on getting our first van up and running. So thank you all very much who've contributed so far. And we're really looking forward to how we can progress this. Thank you.
Good evening. I can say my turn.
Yes, sorry, Sarah. I probably should have said Sarah, over to you.
It's fine. Thank you. So I am quite new in terms of employment with City Harvest, though I have volunteered for the last 18 months. I was on the food council, so helping source food. And then now I'm very fortunate to have inherited the rudder of this extraordinarily brilliant institution. I am just going to do a quick sort of overview of the situation sort of as of today. We've had a very important meeting today with our food council, so I've got some sort of the latest minute sort of stats. Claire, if I could have the next slide, please. So where we are currently, figures published last September is that 25% of households in London are in food poverty. That is 1 million people accessing food banks on a weekly basis currently in our capital. That's 2.5 million children nationally, and it's rising. We're expecting a new announcement for both the homeless figures for London and also the number of households in food poverty to be announced at the end of the financial year. The acceptance would be that we're approaching somewhere in the region of a third of households now. And to be in food poverty, it means that somebody in your household is going without food to enable someone else to have a meal. And then it runs through to those that are going multiple days without food. I was at Evelina House today, which is the Ronald McDonald House for parents whose children are at Evelina Hospital. And they're talking about families because of the devastating change that's happened in their lives with their child's next door in the hospital. Work stops, or they lose their job, or they're self-employed, and there is no food, and there is no way for them to find food, and they're having people arrive who have just no way of sourcing any support. So there's one institution that we're supporting. At present, through the work of the phenomenal Marco, he has analysed every charity that we work with, and this is down to the nuts and bolts of where they are along the same road as another charity, and ensuring that logistically we're going to go to them on the same day, because we discovered one had a Tuesday delivery, one had a Thursday, so now we go the same place, same street, same day, same time. But also looking at a hub and spoke model, so he's been encouraging the efficiencies through that. If you have 3 in one road, we will deliver to one and the other 2 can collect. And this has enabled us to expand what we do with our existing fleet of 17 vans. And then we can then onboard more charities. So that figure plus 6,300 people in 8 weeks, we have brought into our network 6,300 people. The real challenge is that on our waiting list, there's 25,000 people, we estimate. And to be on the waiting list, you will have been visited, you will be a registered charity, you'll be registered with the Department of Work and Pension, you will have a defined beneficiary group, and you're in the correct borough and geographical area for where we can reach currently. The inquiry list is something that gives me sleepless nights, quite frankly. It is enormous, and like all charity chief execs, it is the major driver for me, speaking to anybody I possibly can and to bring in more. The rising cost of living impact, it cannot be underestimated. There's an enormous number of people that, to be honest, are very much like you and I. They have had periods in their life where they have worked very hard. Their income covers their outgoings without any trouble at all. I speak to a lot of people who used to be the donors to a food bank, but they are now short of the 20, 30, 40 pounds a week. It's not a question of, is it heat, is it light, is it food? It's only one of those three, or it's none of those three. And you're looking at retired teachers, professional people. It's just not working currently. And so we're looking at a lot at those sort of the social supermarket element. Just the model can be extended. Laura and Steve, when they set up City Harvest, had phenomenal foresight, and we have the ability to move and change quite quickly. We need to deliver 20 meals in 2023 to meet our current charity partners' needs. So essentially the 13.7 million we delivered last year, they still wanted more. And as demand increases, I mean, I'd personally like to be delivering about 24, but it's only so far we can push our team. Thank you, Claire. Can I have the next slide, please? So how the vans work, and that's a bit of a sneak peek on the rather stunning van that's about to join the fleet. We're fairly unique in that we have an entirely retained, full-time employed professional driver managed fleet. They love their vans. They are all absolutely immaculate. They all have a wash every week and a hoover and a polish, and probably kiss goodnight as well in a couple of instances. They're just brilliant, our drivers. They are absolutely the front line of what we do. And they are, quite frankly, the compassionate beating heart of where we are as City Harvest. At Evelina today, the third thing that they said as I arrived, after, "Hello, good morning, Sarah, it's lovely to meet you. We love City Harvest." They then said, "Gabby is fantastic," and he is one of the big personalities in our team, but he and his van make a difference. 3 days a week when he delivers into Evelina House, and how he supports their nurses. So 17 vans on the road, sorry. 38 miles a day is the average distance that one of our vans travels currently. And we are currently running at an average of 58,000 meals a day going out through our fleet. And our efficiency is increasing every time. So you can start seeing now really the impact of the Livery Food Initiative van and how much of a difference that's going to make. As we expand, we're adding a couple of larger vehicles. Our license allows us to put in some 3.5 ton vehicles, and they're going direct to farm. I come from a food and farming background, and so we're collecting food waste directly from the farm gate. So bins of apples that are wrong size, wrong shape, wrong colour for whichever retailer, or bins of potatoes, carrots. We have a wonderful volunteer army, and they help. And so the vans and our vehicles are very multi-purpose. They don't just deliver to charities. Along their way, they'll be picking up chicken from Nando's. They'll be picking up food collections from Premier League football clubs. There's an initiative called One Can for the Community. So you may well find that you'll see pictures of your wonderful van popping up on social media outside Crystal Palace as their supporters make a donation for their local community. We meet the most wonderful, generous people. And these additional vehicles will just make the most enormous amount of impact. Claire, can I have the next slide, please? So the next steps is the beautiful, beautiful van. Last year for the Jubilee, we changed our livery slightly and we went to Union Jacks. It's Anne Hill on the call, and the Vintners. So the Vintners have a particularly beautiful van as well. But Anne, I just wondered if, sorry to really put you on the spot, would you like to say a couple of words about your van?
Of course. Yes, I'm Anne Hill. I'm the immediate past master of the Vintners Company. And during my year, I really wanted for to have as my legacy something that kept giving. And so I've been involved with City Harvest personally for about 5 years beforehand. And I just felt that it resonated so well, because as you've heard from everybody earlier, City Harvest does exactly what it says on the logo. It does rescue food, people and planets. And so it was a very easy thing to explain to our membership why we wanted to be involved with them. And I have to say that I'm incredibly proud of my van. Obviously, it was called Anne's van, sort of affectionately within the company. But when we can explain to people what the impact of having that van is and how much it does, and as I think Laura mentioned earlier, you know, this is direct action supporting people from all ages, religions, ethnic backgrounds, disabilities, sexual orientation. Basically, you know, anybody and everybody is supported by City Harvest, including the planet, obviously, through the reduction of food waste. And so as we're answerable as the sort of charity arm of any livery company, we have to be answerable to our members in our grant giving. And City Harvest is a no-brainer, basically. Sorry to be so basic about it. Everybody can see the direct action that the donations they've given to the company to spend in their name, how it works. So I must say it's been a pleasure and a privilege to work with City Harvest, and it's been incredibly well received by the members of the Vintners Company. And in fact, as you mentioned, you know, people have phoned up the company saying, oh, we've seen your van and tell us more about how we can get involved with City Harvest. And my poor sort of secretary, Sarah, then says, what shall I do? And I said, well, pass on the information to Fiona at City Harvest. It has been a really fantastic initiative, and I'm looking forward to seeing my lovely Platinum Jubilee van travelling around London for another couple of years. And I would, you know, I think it's been one of the best initiatives we've been involved with.
Well, thank you. So it's a very, very valuable van doing doing amazing things. It also has a big personality driving it as well, doesn't it? Anne very kindly sort of introduced sort of the next bit of my slot. So the Livery Food Initiative van will be focused from will be running from our new Spitalfields site. So Corporation of London very kindly has given us a small compound within the market, and the tenants of New Spitalfields Market are one of our major donors. They always hit the top 10. They are just a gold-hearted, wonderful group up there. And the next centre of identified major need is within the eastern regions of the city. So the Livery Food Initiative van will be going out into new communities for us. It will be focused on will be part of bringing our waiting list into the fold. In return for all donations to City Harvest, there are some very detailed impact reports which will detail the impact on people, food and planet. So the amount of food that the van will have carried, the number of meals that food creates, and the impact on the planet from the offset against the greenhouse gases that we have prevented by saving that food and giving it purpose. And these will be available as part of the Livery Food Initiative report, so therefore available to every company as part of their charitable reports and as part of their ESG reporting. We have, well, gosh, I've skipped on a bit, sorry, but as a charity, we have capacity food-wise. We have an absolutely stellar new head of food, and she and the team are very busy ensuring that we have food capacity in the right areas to ensure that the van will be very busy running around collecting as well as delivering. We don't actually have a date yet. But we're anticipating launching this amazing van because having hit 70% and a wing mirror, we are now confident that we can purchase, and we will commission then the artwork and have the beautiful van wrapped. And we're very much hoping that the Lord Mayor may be with us, but we don't actually have any date on that one yet. But watch this space, and I do believe that's my time up.
Thank you, Sarah. We've just got one more slide. So you may have seen on that van that it had on it a mention of the Livery Food Initiative. And we thought, well, what better logo could we have for the Livery Food Initiative than to borrow the plaque off the van? So you are now being introduced to the branding, the logo, if you like, for our Livery Food Initiative. So this is what we'll be using going forward when we talk about what we're doing. And more information is available, as you can see, on the website that I've mentioned there. And also, if you do want to give personally in the way that Denise was outlining, there's also a link there. And surprise, surprise, you'll find those links in the chat area if you want to look for them at the moment. So that's the end of what we wanted to say to you to begin with. We're now really, really keen to hear what questions, comments you have. So perhaps if we could stop sharing our slides, Claire, we can see everybody. And then we can see who might want to ask any questions. But before we do that, I want to just ask one person if they'd like to talk to us. Eleanor, would you like to talk to us about what you're going to be doing?
Oh, yes, thank you, Hilary. I'm quite happy to talk. So on the 4th of March, I'm planning to climb Kilimanjaro, attempt to summit Kilimanjaro. And I'm junior warden of the worship company of Fearless. And the fundraising will go 50% to City Harvest via Fearless Charitable Trust Fund and 50% to a Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Fantastic. So I think we could spend the next 20 minutes asking you questions about have you worked out what you're going to carry up there?
Oh, yes, it's still work in progress because, I mean, the big bag, the mountain bag is limited up to 12 kilograms. So it's, you know, I really have to optimize things. So I'm really working on it yet.
Fantastic. And I can see Chloe from the Fuelers has got a fantastic smile on her face. So this is obviously a phenomenal real-time initiative that's happening. And you go on the 6th of March, is it?
4th of March.
4th of March.
Yeah. So 4th of March till the 14th. So on the 14th, we're back.
And will we be able to follow you virtually as you're doing it?
Yes. So we're also arranging a tracker. So we've got the Just Giving page and the link for the tracker will be there as well. So I'm sure Chloe will share with you.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Hilary, I'll bang that over to you in due course.
Brilliant. So who else would like to ask something of any of our esteemed panel members across the top of the screen?
Where's my hand thing?
And
Sorry, I just want to mention something else. Last year, there was a book that was written by a cookery writer that Laura and I both know called Kristen Fredrickson, which was called I don't know if you can see it, A Taste of City Harvest. And basically this was a book about the work of City Harvest at that point. And it sort of travels across and explains the different places that City Harvest donated the food to. And very kindly, the Lord Mayor had the launch at Mansion House, the last Lord Mayor now, obviously. But I know that this book, if you have people within your companies that want to know a little bit more about exactly who receives the donations from City Harvest and how they're used, it's got some recipes and some fantastic stories within it. I know it is still around at City Harvest, and I'm sure Sarah would be able to tell you how your various companies could get hold of a copy for distribution. I'll just mention it.
Yes.
I gave my sister a copy I'd come across. And my sister is not really very impressed by anything I do. She sort of thinks it's a different world and doesn't really find out more about it. But she was really taken with this book. And she said, I've put some money that I want you to give to City Harvest. And she gave me 100 quid. Oh. So this book has got fantastic leverage. So you want to get hold of a copy and show it to people, and then you'll find you're raising money from it. So
absolutely. At the moment, it's direct from us. We're having some challenges getting uploaded to the Amazon booksellers portal, but we're persevering. It's a very complicated process for discovering. We feel we're nearly there, but at the moment, come to me and my team. We will sort it out for you.
Brilliant. What else would people like to know?
It's done silence, Hilary.
If I could just ask a question. I mean, our chairman of our trustees couldn't make it this evening. I've come partly, I've heard you talk about this before, and I've come partly to listen and obviously partly to report back to him. So it occurs to me that to get Livery's to sort of make donations from their charities, they need a sort of fairly sort of simple script. You know, this is why, this is what it does, this is how you go about doing it. This is the sort of money that we're expecting to get from Livery's, maybe, just to make it life easy for them. I mean, you know better than I do how the charities work. They've got their objects, etc. So it might be just worthwhile putting together a very simple script, you know, for chairman of trustees, and to make it easy for them to petition that to their court, or sorry, to their sort of charity trustee board. I mean, it sounds to me a fantastic idea, but you're going to get most of the contributions probably from the charities. So I think it would be worthwhile putting something together, something very short and simple.
That's really interesting, Carl, because we've got a 4-page document which has been passing the test, if you like, of charity committees and trustees within the Livery Company. They're agreeing it's got the information in they want to give, but maybe we need something simpler as well.
Okay.
And just to add to that, I'm not quite sure whether we said, but you can download that from the City Livery Committee website. So if you Google Livery Food Initiative, then it'll take you to the City Livery Committee. Have you got the name right, Hilary?
You have indeed, and it's also
load the PDF from there.
We're going to let you have the slides, and the last slide's got the details on, and it's also in the chat box. But as Denise says, we're just so grateful to the Livery Committee, the City of London Livery Committee, because they've been so helpful to the Chairs Group and now to the Food Initiative, putting information up there. So if you Google Livery Charity Chairs Group, you'll find all about us on the Livery Committee, first hit. And if you Google Livery Food Initiative, you'll find out all about that, first hit. So all the information is there as soon as you want it.
Could I just ask one question as well? Have you sent that 4-page document to all the clerks of all the livery?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's gone to all the members of the Livery Charity Chairs Group, and then more recently, we contacted all the other livery clerks. So we have been in touch with all of them. Yeah. Do you ask for a reason, Mark, or have you?
It's just that I hadn't heard of this initiative. I'm an insurer, as you'll see from my name, but I'm also a past master woolman. So, and I didn't know whether they were involved. So I've just pinged an email to my clerk to find out.
Fantastic.
If he knows anything about it. If he doesn't, then he'll come back and get more information from me, I'm sure.
That's brilliant. And we may not have emphasised, I mean, we're funding the vans for 3 years, but we're also raising money for 3 years, if you like. So our legacy will last for more than 3 years, because we're going to go on raising money for vans, which will then be running on up to 6 years, if you like, if we get another van in the 3rd year. So we reckon there was a length of time that this was a big need that we wanted to be responding. So that's where the 3 years came from. In that. So we don't mind if everybody doesn't know about us all together at the same time, because they'll gradually all find out about us and then all buy into it.
Thank you.
Hilary, may I ask a question, please?
Of course, Richard.
Richard Thomas, Chartered Accountant. The question's for Sarah, really. In terms of collecting food, do you endeavour to collect that, you mentioned farms, as locally as possible to London or not? And in particular, have you heard of a company called Riverford Organic down here in Devon?
Yes. So one of the other hats I wear is I'm a non-exec for Covent Garden Market Authority, and Riverford have their distribution hub on the market. And bless their hearts, they do share their surplus from their redistribution hub. We wouldn't go as far as Devon because the footprint of us heading down there to bring food back up to London is too great. But if Riverford as a central organisation from Devon approached us, we'd probably put them in. I mean, I know that they work with UK Harvest. So one of the functions for City Harvest as well is if it's logistically viable. So we go essentially as far as Cambridgeshire because we have growers in Wisbech and then sort of all around the south coast. So sort of Greater London plus. But if we are approached from further afield, then we then network them through feeding Food for Britain or another similar organisation to ensure that they're within the excess network.
That's fantastic. For others on the call who don't know them, they are a 100 million turnover organic food company, and they have quite a focus on charities. And they are currently, their founder currently has a video on the ICAEW website concerning the company. But I know they would be very supportive of this initiative. But it sounds like you've already got contact with them, Sarah.
They're a lovely organisation. They are a really nice team at the market too.
Good.
If you want to talk to them as well, Richard, though, you never know because it's all reinforcement of messages in all directions.
Yeah, I can certainly do that. I know their FD and their IT director happens to be my son-in-law, so we have good contact there.
Or perhaps if you give him a copy of the book, you might get £100 out of him as well. You never know.
Let's see.
All right. Could I ask a question? John Warner, past master of the Fruiterers and trustee of the Fruiterers Foundation. As you know, part of our obligations to the city is we have been distributing fruit for many, many years to the needy. But recently we found out that a lot of them actually didn't want it, and it was going to waste essentially. So how are you going to continue monitoring and updating your recipients to ensure that you are giving the right things to the right people? Because we are going to concentrate all our giving now through City Harvest, and we're anxious to know that everybody gets what they actually need, not necessarily what we think they need.
Good evening, Postmaster.
Hello, Sarah.
So I mentioned Marco and his work with the community team. So they have personally visited every charity that we work with. We're just about to launch a new website, which will go out next month, towards the end of March. In there will be a portal for every charity, and not all of them will have the ability or the capability to engage with it, but they will each have an account within there. And so they will be able to see what they have requested and our performance against what they have requested. And we've already done this piece of work in depth. So we now have a statement, because currently we're delivering 45% fruit and vegetables. And we now know which charities actually want fresh fruit and vegetables, or which ones want fruit because they're doing breakfast, which ones cook. So when City Harvest was founded, there's been a real focus on those that cook for others, so the provision of hot meals. So we know how it's broken down. By going now through this portal, charities will be able to declare their key needs, so we can hit the dietary and cultural and social needs of them nutritionally, but also if they have freezers, then they can request more frozen food, or if they don't think they can run a freezer, so we have that depth of knowledge in there. So no, we've been very conscious as well about not sending something because they've always had it, because that could have been somebody else's decision that they should have that particular category. We're now making sure that as we're improving, because we're growing, we're adopting more technology, the drivers now will also have a job sheet, a delivery sheet, so they will deliver specific items as requested.
One of the things that most impressed me when I was talking to Laura about this early on was Laura talking about how the drivers are such a key part of the whole process. And I know you had an event, didn't you, to do with the Livery Kitchen Initiative at Mansion House, where you had drivers talking about their experiences, and they were the ones that absolutely convinced people that this was an amazing organisation.
one of the things, and it was one of the things that I talked about in my interview. So one of the things I learned very early on. So I came to City Harvest because I chaired the National Fruit Show, and we donated all the exhibition fruit to City Harvest via the Lord Mayor in 2020. And then we were sitting, standing outside the mansion house, keeping a suitable distance. And some of the drivers and a couple of volunteers came to receive the fruit. Now, so one of those volunteers is now a part of our fundraising team. Another one of those volunteers is now employed full-time driving on a van for us. The other, and so many of our team have come through that way, and the drivers particularly, we've got several, and this is sort of payback. They have been in need, they have been in dire straits, and they're okay now, and they are now giving back. They are driving the van and they are helping others. And it's such a strong part of City Harvest. Such a large number of my team are there because they are giving back.
And as we get to the walk and run stages, there might be opportunities for us to perhaps see some of these things in action a bit more. I think that's that would be good for all of us.
Come and be a driver's mate. You won't need to go to the gym afterwards, but you will see a very, very different side of London, and you will meet some astonishing people who are making an enormous difference in their communities.
Any more questions?
Hilary, if I can, David Chalk Draper. One of the things I think that's terribly, it's wonderful about this project is that as livery companies, we have common cause, as it were, but we all have different things that we can do, and there's sort of different opportunities for companies to do different things. So some can give some money, others, I think there are opportunities perhaps through volunteering or through as you say, sort of sponsorship or match funding. And I think it's very important that people don't feel it is only only sort of large sums of money. And I think that so that the engagement of the wider right across the livery is incredibly important. And certainly I would like to try to encourage that as much as possible, and not for people to feel that we can only give a small amount of money, but there are other things that people can do, and I think it'd be very important to highlight that in all communications.
Thank you, David. You're absolutely right. It's very much something we're wanting to recognise. Good.
One of the so we have a new campaign which is launching next month, which is essentially a little delivers a lot. And one of the phrases that we're going to have, one of the initiatives running through this is the City Harvest meal deal. And it's the very easiest way of remembering the impact of a donation, because it doesn't matter how big or how small the donation is, it will have profound impact on the way, on what it can deliver. So the City Harvest meal deal is 4 meals for £1, because it only costs £1 for us to deliver 4 meals worth of food. So any size of donation makes an enormous difference in people's lives.
And it's making a difference, isn't it? It's something that wasn't given before and now is given. So we're collectively doing that. Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for all your questions. And thank you to the team. They were all teasing me early on, saying that I seem to have slightly bossy characteristics, which my husband, who's sitting by me, doesn't recognise at all. but nevertheless, they've all been absolutely brilliant at giving you so much information in such a short space of time, and enabling you to ask lots of questions. Lorraine, I see did you have your hand up? Just a final question? Oh, you were applauding. Thank you. So quite simply, I mean, we've shared information about this. We'll go on sharing information about it. We'll let you all know about the launch, when that's going to happen, when the van actually goes live and we start seeing it driving around. In the meantime, we'd ask all of you that are involved with charities, think about, can you support us in some way? And we realise how many other really deserving causes there are. But this is another way that you could think about helping. And we're just so pleased at the Livery Charity Chairs Group that we've come up with an initiative where collectively we can make such a big difference. And that's really where this all started. So I'll end there, if I may, and hand back to Richard.
Thank you, Hilary. On behalf of us all, I'm not often speechless, but some of the statistics that I've heard tonight and some of the targets that City Harvest are trying to meet and the people they're trying to help is truly awesome. So thank you, Laura, for setting up City Harvest in the first place. I'm deeply grateful that Hilary, you and Denise had the initiative and the idea to put this to all the livery movement. And Sarah, thank you to all you and your team for everything you do. I hope the whole livery movement gets behind it and supports your efforts. Hilary and Claire, thank you for organising tonight. And everyone, thank you for tuning in and hearing more about this initiative. And I hope you can continue to spread the word amongst our colleagues. Thank you. I hope you all have a very good night. Thanks.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.